Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Video Game Kitchen Reviews, where we'll be visiting different video games and reviewing the restaurants and or kitchens that we find within the game. I'll be using my 10 years of experience in the industry to give some insight on why stuff might be there and why stuff might not be there. So with that out of the way, let's get to it. The first kitchen that we will be reviewing is one that is kind of near and dear to my heart, as it's part of a game that I've been playing for a very long time, and that is the Ramen restaurant in Destiny 2. So let's get inside and take a look. The first things first, I'm assuming this is their cooler refrigerator unit, and it's a little problematic to have a trash can shoved up right next to it. It's gonna get pretty gross on the side, and I'd be worried about stuff kind of splattering across it. There's a slim chance that stuff gets actually inside the fridge, but it's definitely not non-existent. I would definitely have that moved. And they've got some dirty pallets on the floor. These are kind of the same thing. I mean, you can even see that this fridge is pretty gross looking. Pretty scuffed up on the sides. It could use a good clean. But there's no produce or food on the trays, so that's a good sign. At least they're keeping the food off the floor. So we're gonna head back into the kitchen, corner. We're just gonna kind of scooch back around this way. Is that a microwave? Is that a microwave? I wouldn't expect a ramen restaurant to have a microwave. I'm not sure what they would use it for. Although there are plenty of restaurants that do have microwaves. It's definitely a lot more common than you would think. They do have their uses, but I think a lot of restaurants rely on them a little too heavily to just reheat already cooked food, which is never really a good thing, and it doesn't really give it the best flavor and texture, in my opinion. Let's see, we've got hand towels hanging on there, which is a little sketch, unless I mean, they could be using them for sort of like pot holders to grab hot stuff, so that's fine. As long as they don't touch the ground. The biggest concern is if they open that oven, they're going to brush against the floor, and then they're using those gross floor towels for either cleaning or holding on to pots and pans, and that's just a recipe for disaster. Now we're gonna go to this. We've got quite a bit of stuff stored. It just looks like pots and pans. This is all fine. I'm not sure what that is down on the bottom. But I don't really see any issues with this. Everything is off the ground and looks like it's stored properly. Although, this is kind of like a heavy use. You can't even get to this over here, right? Like, this shelf is too big that it blocks off. Is that another oven? You can't even open that door because this is in the way. What is that? What is this? You see the oven handle? If you open that, it's gonna bang against this, and so you can't even use that oven. And they've got pots and stuff over there, and I would not want to be the one to reach across to grab like a big pot of boiling water, and potentially drop it on myself or just all over the stove. On the plus side, they've got hood vents, so whoever designed this was at least thinking about that, which is super important. Because these vents not only take all of the smoke and grease, or mostly smoke, the grease kind of builds up and you have to have somebody come and clean them professionally. But it takes the smoke out, but it also takes like the excess gas out, so there's not a bunch of gas filling up in here if you have just like the burners and stuff off or on even. So that's good. That's a huge plus. I am a little worried about these weird jugs. Is this like chemicals above all this stuff? I'm trying to get like a good look at what that says, but it's just a little blurry. I'm a little wary of having that hanging over everything, unless it's a food item. In that case, it's fine. I'm assuming that's not a giant jug of maple syrup. And they've got, let's see, looks like they've got some dry goods stored up here, and that's totally fine. So we've got some ladles hanging down. This is fine if that's how they store them. You know, as long as they're washed and cleaned. These plates look kind of gross. I don't know if that's just like the metallic color, but they all look scummy and dirty. I feel like they need to wash their plates better. And their pots. You can see that they put sort of like, they made the pots definitely look used. You can see like this, the kind of like soot and scorch marks and stuff on the sides. So they need a good scrub down. All that stuff can come off. I'm looking at their wok technique. Is it over a grill? Yeah, I've used woks a few times, and usually it was over like either like a really intense gas burner, or we had like an actual wok burner. It was like just like a jet engine flame thing. It looked insane, and I definitely would not have my hand that close to the metal pan if that's what the kind of burner they have. But I don't really understand their setup here, unless that's just something to rest that on. But even then, the flames aren't really. I can't imagine it getting hot enough to actually stir fry anything. But again, this is supposed to be ramen, so I'm not entirely sure. Because like what I would assume a typical setup would be a pot of boiling water, which I'm assuming that's what that's supposed to be, with some noodle dunking baskets. So you can drop the noodles in, take them out, put them in a bowl with some hot broth that I assumed is getting hot held. But I know I'm no expert on ramen restaurants. I've never had to make ramen in a professional setting, so who knows? Let's see. I also just noticed all this like gadgetry over here. Again, completely blocked by this shelf. They need to figure out a different place for this metro rack to go, because there's just like blocking off such it looks like a small chunk, but it's like kind of a big deal to have all this stuff blocked off. Let's see, what else we have? We got the lights. Got a pretty decent setup. Just a nice little counter service. That's really cute and quaint. They've got the gas lines over here. I mean, overall, not too bad. I think the biggest concern was just that rack and making it kind of hard to reach over there. And this microwave. Why are you here? Why are you here? Just because you're a kitchen gadget, perhaps? And they wanted more kitchen gadgetry? I'm not really sure what you would be used for. Let's take a peek outside real quick. They've got this rug, which I guess is kind of nice. This is a problem. They need to actually fix this. This is a huge tripping hazard for guests. And they could trip and fall and seriously hurt themselves. So this should be checked on often if it's getting this messed up, for sure. Because they don't want anybody tripping and hurting themselves. That's just a liability waiting to happen. The front of the restaurant is kind of nice. It's a lot of vents. That is a lot of vents. I feel like it could use some signage other than the one sign inside. I'd like to know where I'm eating at, and if I was just a casual passerby, I probably wouldn't really pay it. Well, hold on. That actually stands out pretty well, right? If you kind of look over, because you can see it through the window. You can see it the whole way you run past. So I guess, unless you're coming from this way, which is also possible, then you might miss it. Or maybe it's just kind of a local spot where just only the locals know. Who knows? So we're going to kind of come around here. I'm assuming this is their stuff. Deliveries for them. I'm not really sure. It all looks okay. I don't see any food items on the ground out here. But again, you won't want to let this stuff just sit out here. I mean, anybody could get into it. I've got more of the food tray pallets out here. Maybe this is just a storage area. I think they're working with what they got, because they don't have much storage in here other than that one rack and that one cooler. So I guess really where else are they going to put stuff other than around the corner? And they've only got 4 seats though, so you would think that you don't need a ton of space if you can only take 4 customers at a time, and especially when you only have these 2 guys here. These are the regulars. The seats are pretty, little stool. Ooh. Did I leave that footprint there? You saw nothing. So overall, it's a pretty quaint little restaurant. It's kind of peaceful here with the music going in the background. You just got your nice bowl of warm ramen. So after our inspection, it's a pretty solid little restaurant. There were only a few kind of glaring issues with the metro rack in the way. The microwave is kind of weird, I think, to have in a ramen spot, and I think maybe it was just put there just because it's a kitchen appliance that everybody can recognize. I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna give this microwave out of 10. See you on the next episode of Video Game Kitchen Reviews. And thanks for watching.